And the thing I love about SEO is that it's kind of a puzzle. But the thing I hate sometimes is that it's not a little question that you've got to look at 17 different data points. SEO has always been about differentiation. Why is somebody going to your website over this other person's website? So ChatGPT is one that is like fairly static. I mean, they're all pre-trained data models. Bing, for instance, has a pre-trained data model and it's augmented with live search. I could probably fly a plane, but to land a plane is a very different thing. These tools will get you really far, but where are you going to land it? If you understand the way that the data is modeled, then that will help you to understand how you might see your visibility on it.
Linkhouse, more than link building platform.
Welcome everybody. It's the first day of Brighton SEO, and I'm here with Crystal Carter from the Wix Studio. This is I Hate SEO podcast, and my name is Aleta Samkov. So let's start, Crystal. The first question has to be, is there anything you hate about SEO?
So I think the thing that I love about SEO is also the same thing that I hate about SEO. And the thing I love about SEO is that it's kind of a puzzle and it's kind of a thing that you need to unravel. So if somebody asks you a simple question or a client asks you a question that seems quite simple, like why aren't we ranking for this keyword anymore? Or why is this feature showing up on the SERP? Sometimes that can seem like a little question to them, but the thing I hate sometimes is that it's not a little question, that you've got to look at 17 different data points. You've got to, go compare the SERPs. You've got to compare old data. You've got to look at competitors. You have to look at things that have changed across Google, various different things in order to find that answer. So it's a strength and a weakness. It's a benefit and a curse, that it's a little bit of a puzzle sometimes, but I think that as an SEO, it's something that comes as part of the experience, and it's something that I don't think is going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, that's also part of the fun.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. That it's changing, that it's so varied. Great. So for those who haven't seen you yet, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Crystal Carter. I am the head of SEO Communications at Wix Studio. And I sort of describe that as I communicate the value of Wix and Wix Studio to SEOs, and I communicate the value of SEO to Wix and Wix Studio users. Mm-hmm. And this is a role that I really, really enjoy because I get to talk to folks who are using our products and how they can get better SEO results, how they can explore some of our different SEO features, because we have lots of different features. We've got a Google Search Console integration. We've got a Bing Index Now integration. We've got things with SEMrush. We've got things with SEO ranking. We have various different tools all built across it. And sometimes people, need help making sure that they can use those tools really well. We have an SEO hub where we create content for that. We work with, incredible contributors to build that. We just started an SEO course, for instance, and we get to help build all of that out. I absolutely love that. And when I talk to SEOs and agency professionals and folks who are using our products to a really high level, they come to us with other challenges. So they'll say, I've got multi-sites and I want to manage them in different ways. We want to be able to integrate this API. We want to do this, that, and the other. And so then that's another piece of the puzzle that we're able to pull together. And one of the things I really love about Wix is, we've got like 250 million users, more than, across the globe, multiple different languages, multiple different markets. And across all of those, we get to work with people who are building one website and people who are building many, many, many websites. Mm-hmm. But our infrastructure and all of their setup is set up to make sure that anybody at any stage can engage with that. Wix Studio lets people go even further, letting you, add more customization and all of that sort of stuff. And it's really, really, I feel really honored to be a part of the process of bringing it to more people.
Yeah, that sounds very exciting. With such a broad range of clients and people to work with. Awesome. So we're here at Brighton, yes. Brighton SEO. How do you like the conference so far?
So this is my 6th time at the conference. We are a headline sponsor. I'm speaking, I'm doing a panel, and I'm working at the booth today. So yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. The team at Brighton SEO are so wonderful. Calvin and Andrea in particular, shout out to those guys. Big fans. And I think that they are really, really good at engaging with lots of up and coming SEOs, and other folks are from across the community. So it's always lovely to see that. And it's always lovely to see, new vendors as well. So new tools and how people are using different tools. So I think a few of the crawling tools have started going cloud, which is really, really cool to see. And also, you get to kind of connect with people. So I saw John Mueller today. He popped over to our stand and delivered some Swiss chocolate. So thank you for that, John. And you get to talk to some incredible speakers and delegates as well. So yeah, big fan of the festival. Or sorry, festival. I always call it a festival. It feels like a festival. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the conference, and I'll also be attending the San Diego conference as well, where we're also sponsoring.
Oh, very nice!
I went last year; it was great. If you haven't been, highly recommend.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, definitely, I should go. Yeah. One thing that I find quite special about the Brighton is that it's one of the few conferences that allows first-time speakers.
Yes,
right. Because otherwise, it's quite hard.
Yeah, it can
to get into the community.
It can be, and I think that Brighton's really, really welcoming to that. And I think I was talking to someone today, and they said I've been such a fan of yours, and you like on all of the things that you do, and I was like, oh, thank you. And she said that she was speaking for the first time today, and she said, do I have any tips? And it's really nice to be able to give support to each other as well. My tip, by the way, is to like just go low down as possible, like basically go into sort of like low volume. So I tend to get to my speaking space wherever it is I'm speaking as early as I possibly can, and go backstage and just like chill out to the max. And so then by the time that the I get up to actually do speaking, I'm bored. So I've been there for an hour, I'm completely, and it's kind of like for an introverted extrovert sort of thing. You get to sort of refill your battery so that by the time you get there, you're like, right, let's do this. I've been sat for an hour, boom.
It's totally different experience for the first time speaker, especially if you familiarize yourself with the place, you know where to go, you know how the room looks like, where to put the pen.
Yeah, it's really useful. I think I find it like it's really useful to go and talk to the team who are behind stage and all that sort of stuff to get settled there. And also the atmosphere at the conference at Brighton SEO is really, really nurturing. So I remember the first time I spoke, I had Barry Adams, who's an incredible SEO, and I had Andrew Optimize, who's also an incredible SEO, one of our contributors for our course, and John Mueller were all in the front stage. And I was like, okay, here we go. But my team were there, and so they were really, really supportive, and the whole folks were there. And I was like, I'm really nervous, and everybody said, no, you're fine. It's totally fine. But it's a really good space. Another good one for first time speakers is the Women in Tech SEO community. They've just had their recent conference in Philadelphia, and I know that they had a few first time speakers there. And I was just talking to Rach, and she was saying, like, it's just such a nurturing space, and everybody's really, really welcome. So I think that if you're thinking about public speaking, I have a few resources on my website, actually.
Great.
crystalcarter.seo.com. And I've got, I think it's / public speaking toolkit, and you can check that out. And there's reasons. I get people who are like, oh, I don't have anything to say. I'm like, I have an answer for that. Oh, I don't know how to get started. I have an answer for that too. So yeah, go and check that out and get out there if that's what you want to do.
Yes. Yeah, that's absolutely helpful. I was about to ask you any tips for first-time speakers, and this sounds great.
Yeah, podcasts are a really good place to start, and also webinars are a really good place to start because you can have your notes in front of you.
Yes,
and I think that can be something that people get nervous about. So, and if you're doing a podcast, for instance, like, and particularly if it's online, you can have another screen that has your notes so you don't lose your place.
Yes,
and that's totally fine.
Yes, absolutely, and it gives you like this first step before coming in front of the real audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds great. So you are speaking tomorrow. Can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek, because the topic sounds very interesting.
Yeah,
SEO for brand recognition in LLMs.
Yeah. So what happens is I've been having lots of conversations with people where they say, "How come I'm not ranking in ChatGPT? Where can I see my business in ChatGPT?" And I think that there's a few people that the conversations that I'm having with people is that they're struggling to understand exactly like how it's different. And like, first of all, it's not a search engine; it's an information retrieval tool, and that's really important to remember. And also, it's modeled on data, and if you understand the way that the data is modeled, then that will help you to understand how you might see your visibility on it. If you look up Wix, for instance, so Wix is a cloud-based CMS, a cloud-based web builder. And if you look at our entity for Wix, it will say that Wix is a cloud-based web builder, et cetera, et cetera. And if you go to ChatGPT and you type in, "Can you name me a cloud-based web builder?" you will get Wix back, right? And that is because those two things are linked within our knowledge graph and within like Wikipedia and things like that. This can be tricky if you are somebody who doesn't have like a very established IP, right? Wix has been around for over 16 years, which is a long time in internet time.
Yes.
And so Wix has been around for a while. So they're fairly established. But if you are something new, then there are other ways to think about it. So I remember when ChatGPT first sort of broke in the mainstream, I said, "Who's Crystal Carter?" And they said, "Who? Where? Who?" And I said, "Crystal Carter." And they were like, "I don't know who that is." Like that Mariah Carey meme where it's like, "I don't know her." That's what I got back. But then recently I asked, "Who is Crystal Carter?" And they said, "Oh, Crystal Carter works for Wix, blah, 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 blah." And I was like, "Okay."
Wow.
Now, one of the things is that like they will update their data sets.
Yeah.
They will update their data. So, and ChatGPT is kind of like, it's kind of you pay for better data. So if you have free ChatGPT, you're getting their oldest data sets going back to like 2021. If you're paying for the top tier of ChatGPT, and I think the last time when I checked their dev notes or whatever, they have like 4 tiers or whatever. Then the higher you go up, like the more pro you are, the more updated their data set is. When you're thinking about brand visibility, most people are going to be on the free one.
Yes.
And some people are going to be on the higher one. So there's a couple of different ways to get around that. And you know, one of my recommendations is to like get involved. For instance, like you can build custom GPTs, for instance, which is another way to have your brand visible on there. We have a custom GPT where you can find information about Wix that's in ChatGPT, and I think right now, a time of writing or a time of podcasting, it's featured in the ChatGPT collection. I've got that in my deck as well. Perplexity is a great tool as well, and they also have like Perplexity pages, for instance, and you can build out pages. I built one for Brighton SEO the other day, and you basically give it a topic and it generates a topic. Now, if you give it a topic that's around your brand, you will also see which kind of links they're referencing as well.
Okay.
But the other thing that's really important to think about is like the differences between the models. So ChatGPT is one that is like fairly static. I mean, they're all pre-trained data models. But Bing, for instance, has a pre-trained data model and it's augmented with live search. Okay. So if you are trying to rank in ChatGPT and Bing, like Bing's Copilot, they're kind of linked or whatever, they support each other. Then if you're trying to write in ChatGPT for something that's newer than like ChatGPT's like data model training set, then you can test where you are in Bing Copilot while you're waiting for the data to update, whatever. And if you're seeing yourself in Bing Copilot, then you probably will see yourself showing up in ChatGPT later on. It's something to think about.
Yeah, because it's not just about ChatGPT. There is also Claude. There is also Google Gemini.
Yes, exactly. And I think so. In my research, like I was like, "Hey, ChatGPT, can you tell me about yourself?" ChatGPT was like, "Yes, I have a pre-trained data model. I am fantastic, and I was built by OpenAI, and oh, they're wonderful, and blah 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 blah." ChatGPT will tell you anything you want to know about ChatGPT. So if you're wondering, like, if you're saying, "I don't see my brand name. Why don't I see my brand name? Can you explain to me?" Da 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 da. Like you will probably get some information. But like Gemini, Gemini, I was like, "Gemini, can you tell me about yourself?" And they were like, "What do you want to know?" And I was like, what was the last time you updated your training model? And he was like, "I can't tell you that information." I was like, "Oh, okay." And so sometimes their information seems to include more up-to-date information. Sometimes their stuff includes other information, but basically like their hashtag, it's complicated in those terms. But yeah, there's Gemini, there's Claude, there's Perplexity, there's ChatGPT, obviously, there's Bing Copilot. And the other thing I would recommend for anybody who's thinking about how to get their brand more visible on them is to use them regularly to see how brands are showing on there. With Perplexity, you get links for every query. Every single query has a link. With Bing, you get Bing's Copilot, you get links for some things. They also throw ads in all of the things. So if you're seeing that you're not showing up, you could show up in ads. Like you could actually show up in ads, and Bing ads are give you incredible value for money. Everybody I know who uses Bing ads is like, we get great ROAS. So it's something to think about as well. So there's lots of different ways to approach it. But I think in my talk it's more coherent.
So there's lots of interesting insight that you just touch upon, but I just wanted to make it clear it's worth to show up in those searches, right?
Yeah.
It's not just Google search anymore.
No. I think search is very, 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 very fragmented. And certainly in my own search, I will find that if I went to Google and I couldn't find the information, I just go, oh wow.
Yeah.
Right. Or you keep searching and searching. But if I don't find it in Google, I'll go to something else. And there's some things where I'm like, I don't want to trawl through all of the things.
Yeah.
Case in point, my colleague, George Wynn, who is the editor at the Wix SEO Learning Hub, he very kindly gave me a stack of Magic the Gathering cards. These are great. And I had to go trying to learn how to play Commander in Magic the Gathering card, Magic the Gathering, the card game, which is very difficult. And I was trying to figure out if I could do a move without trample and like get I don't know, all of the points. And if you Google, can I do this move in Magic the Gathering, the card game, you will get a 7,000 word essay from somebody who's really, really into it. And you still don't understand it because like, I'm not that deep into the game. I just started, right? Or you'll get a half an hour video of the full way of how to play Magic the Gathering. And I literally just want to know if I can use this card and this move right now. And I've done this and I literally go, ChatGPT, can I do this, and this? And they go, yes, no, like on your next turn, etc. And like, it just means that you can move on with your life.
It's so much easier.
So yeah, there's definitely that. And also I think that it's worth like remembering that a lot of some of the the highest traffic content will go to things like tools or whatever. And ChatGPT does a lot of the things that those tools do. So that's worth thinking about as well. In terms of like you were saying, is it worth it? Absolutely. Because it does do a lot of things, but like I would, for instance, if I said, I think I was having an issue with like decorating, a decorating issue, and I was like asking a question about wallpaper, like, oh, do I need this kind of wallpaper? Do I need that kind of wallpaper? How can I fix my wall is like this, and I need to do that? And they're like, you're gonna need professional assistance. I'm like, what? I'm like, they're like, you need to get a decorator. Like, you just have to get a decorator to come and help you with this. And like, it's like, okay. So I think that for those kinds of queries where you've got expertise and they're looking for a general sort of guidance on something, the LLMs will give you a sort of starting path, but very often you're going to hit a wall where you're going to need actual services, actual products, actual people to help you find the solution for that.
Yeah.
I was looking up something about like, I don't know, I saw a thing. I was like, I'm going to invest in a startup. And I was like, how does this work with this? And then, and the thing that's tricky about it is if you go to something like Cedars or something where they have like, like a Crowdcube where you can like invest in like a startup on an app, they have disclaimers all over the website. So this is something that's also worth thinking about. Is that for some queries, like ChatGPT is kind of like, it doesn't have the same guardrails that a website does. It doesn't have the same guardrails that people are beholden to in the financial spaces. For instance, if you were to get a credit card, they have disclaimers that are like, credit is very important, and don't spend all your money and don't give everything to this and da 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 da. If you go and look on a website about alcohol, for instance, it will say like, are you 18? Like, are you able to do the things like, are you 21? Like all of that sort of stuff. But if you go to ChatGPT and you ask them like how to make a martini, they will just tell you how to make a martini. It won't ask you like, how old are you? Like what's all of the things as well. So
at least at this point,
right? Exactly. I'd say at this point, at time of podcasting, who knows? But I think that it's important to remember that when you're doing your content, and particularly when it's for that sort of high impact EEAT, YMYL content, that you being able to provide really sound, really robust really well supported and expert content, particularly on those things, will set you apart from those tools, because those tools will give you a general idea, but they're not going to have the specifics, and they're not going to have the up-to-date, litigation information and like not litigation, but like legal requirements and all of those sorts of things. So they can get you some part of the way. And I think we should remember that they're part of the user journey, but we need to make sure that I think as we evolve in terms of websites, that more of the website should be dedicated to finishing the deal, like closing the deal on your website. Yeah. That's where people close the deal. That's where they fill in the form. That's where they make the purchase. That's where they find your phone number. That's where they're going to do that. So if you can get your name on there, so if I'm saying like, oh, I would like to invest in a startup, do I get tax savings on that, or do I need to apply for something? And ChatGPT can give you general information about that.
Yes.
Then I would go like, where can I invest in a startup? And they would go Crowdcube, Cedars, this or that, like whichever. And you go, okay. And then you have to go to a website and see that. So so they'll give you the general journey that a lot of times, like Google have said before that it takes like 8 searches for somebody to get to an answer.
Yeah.
But they can do all of that conversation in an LLM, like Copilot, like ChatGPT, whichever. And then your website should be ready for when people land after having done a lot of that information, so that you can validate information that they've seen before, so that they can verify that you are who you are, that you know what you're doing, and so that they can seal the deal. Like so many websites that I go to, it's difficult to find out like where you buy it, or where you call them, or where you like actually get in touch with them. And I think that sort of the funnel will need to evolve as these things become part of the general user journey.
Yes, totally agree. I see myself very often just go to ChatGPT or Claude for quick information retrieval. Simple answers, quick. I don't want to click through those links and bounce. It's easy.
Yeah.
But just as you said, the search will change in a way that this transactional intent, you will have to look for it in the search.
Yeah, exactly. If you were making a cake, I was going to say build a cake, but if you were going to make a cake or something, you might go to ChatGPT and say, "Oh, I don't have any eggs.
Yeah.
What can I use instead of eggs?"
Yeah.
And they would say, "Oh, you could use this, and this." And like maybe they mention an ingredient, and you're like, "I've never even heard of xanthan gum. I don't know what that is." And and they'll say, "Oh, it's this," and then you have to find xanthan gum, right? So you've done, and they're not gonna send you on that journey from there. You're gonna have to go into a different search engine to find that. You might even go to TikTok or like wherever to find more information as well. But they might get you so far. I call it like circling the tarmac. I use ChatGPT to help me with my JavaScript. My JavaScript is fine. It's not great. It's fine. And I can do debugging and all that sort of stuff. But like my JavaScript's okay. If I want to actually build something, then we have a code assistant within the Wix builder. We have like lots of great coding assistants within the Wix builder as well. And our code assistant has like an AI tool that will help you debug code, help you build code and things like that. And that's great. I've used that really, really well. And sometimes I use that alongside ChatGPT to build things. But very often I find that I can get myself like 85% of the way there. And then for the last little bit, sometimes I need a dev, right?
Okay.
And with that, I call it like circling the tarmac. It's like, I could probably, I'm just going to put it out there. I could probably fly a plane. Like if somebody got it up into the sky, I could probably go like this.
Yeah.
For like in the sky. But to land a plane is a very different thing.
Yes. It's about starting and landing.
Exactly. So these tools will get you really far, but like, where are you going to land it? And I think that's what we need to make sure. And I think that a lot of these tools rely on entities like very, very significantly in order to understand, because it's a language model, and they model their language on entities. So yeah, it's worth thinking about that.
Okay. So if you were to sum it up with one practical, actionable tip on how to get into generative search results, what would that be?
If I would say in one sentence, I would say build out your entity. So build out your entity.
How do you do that?
So the example I gave was for instance, if you put in the Barbie movie summary, it's like Barbie and Ken go on an adventure to save Barbie Land. You put that into like a machine learning tool and say, what are the entities in this? One of the ones it'll pull out is Mattel. Not quoted. One of the entities it'll pull out is fashion doll. also not mentioned in that piece of text. But why? Because they understand that if you see the word Barbie and you see the word Ken in close proximity to each other, they're talking about the doll Barbie and Ken. The dolls Barbie and Ken. Now, if you go into ChatGPT and you type in "name me a fashion doll," they will tell you Barbie. That'll be the first thing they do. Just like what I was talking about with Wix and the cloud-based web builder. So if you don't have an established entity in terms of like you're a small business or whatever, there are a couple of things that you can think about. So your Google business profile is your Google business profile is something that builds on your entity as business. And if you have a robust Google business profile, then it forms part of your knowledge graph. For part of your knowledge panel. If you are somebody who's an individual, you can also, put your information on Wikidata and all of the things that you would do to like get a knowledge panel, get in the knowledge graph. Those will all help to make your entity more robust. Additionally, when you're thinking about like link building, for instance, you want to think about building links, not just to people who have good websites, but people who have an established entity.
Okay.
Right. So for instance, you guys are doing something at Brighton SEO. Brighton SEO has an established brand. You guys are connecting yourselves to that established brand. That's really useful. Another thing that's worth thinking about is like when you're talking about who you are, make sure that you're connecting relevant entities to yourself. So a prime example is if I said Steve McQueen is a man known for his films, that applies to two Steve McQueens, right? There's Steve McQueen from the 60s who used to drive fast cars and stuff like that. There's Steve McQueen who's a director who's living now. And if I said about the director, if I said Steve McQueen, the Turner Prize winning, Academy Award winning director, that's one Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
What I find with businesses is they very often will describe themselves in terms that are completely generic.
Yes.
And so if you don't have a business that is described in terms that are unique to that business and make that business unique, then it's very difficult for Google or anyone to understand what your entity is. I remember looking at some agencies, and they were like all these big agencies, and they were like, oh, this is an international agency who works in lots of different markets and has dynamic and creative advertising campaigns. And I went to the next agency. This is an international agency that works in like that, and they all had the same one. And I was like, how would you tell the difference between any of these clearly distinct entities from their descriptions, the way they're describing themselves? To make sure that you're describing yourself in a way that is distinct to you. So it would be like, Crystal Carter works at Wix. She went to this college. She's spoken at Brighton SEO. She's spoken at this, and this. So there's only one Crystal Carter that's done those things.
Yeah.
And that's really important to think about. So make sure that it's distinct and also connected to all of the things that you do.
Yeah, that's also good advice for people who are starting the business and are coming up with their names. Like, be careful about the brand and the name, right? You don't want to be another be something, beehive, or be something else, right? That's quite popular. Or florist, flowers here.
It's tricky. It's very tricky. It can also be tricky. That can also be tricky, like just by accident. So sometimes that happens too. There's a song called "Blame It on the Boogie," which was originally done by it's a Michael Jackson song. But the person who wrote it was somebody called Mick Jackson.
Oh, gosh.
Whose real name is Michael Jackson. He put it out a week before Michael Jackson did. And like no one will ever remember him because his name is Mick Jackson.
Yeah.
And it's the same as Michael Jackson.
Sometimes you can't do anything about it. It's an unfortunate situation. But if you have any control, try to pick a unique name.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any advice on people who already can't change their logos, their names, and have that problem with multiple entities?
I think if you're thinking about it, then you can weigh up the pros and cons, and you can do an assessment on whether or not it's worth shifting your brand.
Okay.
It's something that Wix have done on a few occasions for different things. So Wix Studio is a new brand that we put out, and we did an assessment of whether or not it was worth, calling it that or calling it something else and things like that. And it's been really, it's been really good. And we've really seen some great feedback on it. We famously, originally, so Velo is our JavaScript framework. There's a great marketing campaign, the video that our team put together because it was originally called Corvid. And then COVID happened. And then we were like, we're changing the name. Changing the name. This is not worth it. Okay. So sometimes you gotta, and so have a think about it. Like if it's worth doing it, then do it. But you have to go all in on changing your name.
You have to weigh pros and cons.
Entirely.
Okay. how can you monitor your brand in generative search? Is there a way?
Yeah. So I think you need to be using these tools regularly, and using them for the kinds of searches that people will be using, that people are likely to use to find you. There are some folks who are doing this at scale, and I've not done this personally, but I'm looking to trial. Basically, you can get like ChatGPT and sheets, and you can put in responses, and it'll get out answers. There's a way to do that, so you can do that in scale, where you put in similar questions. So you could put in people also ask questions, for instance, and see that. Another way to do it is to, like, for instance, Perplexity. When you build out Perplexity, a Perplexity page, they will put in all the links and they will generate an article for you based on that topic. So if I was to put in like Brighton SEO, for instance, it will pull out all of the links and it'll pull out like multiple sections of an article, and you can see the kinds of links that it's pulling back. So if you were to go for like the topic, or you could literally put in your business and you can pull out all of the different information. There was somebody who was talking about this before, and you can see that. So I think that's worth doing. Also, you can see there are some links that show up in ChatGPT, depending on which version of ChatGPT people have. And there are links in Bing Copilot, there are links in Perplexity, there are links in Claude, and there are links in Gemini sometimes. But you can also see that in your GA4. So in my talk, I'll be sharing something that I got from Jess Schultz, actually. So it's a nice little regex filter or whatever, and you can see the traffic that you're getting from that. And you can see, I'm not sure if you can see the queries just yet, because the queries tend to be very complex. But you can certainly see the traffic. So you can monitor how much traffic you're getting from that.
Okay.
It's not always perfect, because I've definitely tested links from ChatGPT and got direct traffic instead of an actual attributed traffic. But that's definitely worth noting. And I think that if you're looking to get buy-in for doing more work in this space, being able to say, to evidence, like, we've had like 6 million hits from this, or we've had 5,000 hits from this, or whatever, and actually it's more than we're getting from Facebook, or actually it's more than we're getting from LinkedIn or whatever, we should be investing in this.
Yes.
Then checking your Google Analytics is a great place to start.
Oh, good. So do you think there will be generative search marketing? Are we heading in that direction? Do you think it's going to be like so specialized?
Yeah, I think so. And I think there's a few people who are advertising this as well. I know the team at Seeker Interactive are doing some great work there. Shout out to Seeker. And I know that the team over at iPullRank are also doing some great work, particularly on the AI overviews, which I have not mentioned because they're slightly different. AI overviews are different from like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, etc., because you don't opt into them. Like, people are just searching, and then an AI overview pops up.
Yes, exactly.
You also can't interact with them.
Yeah.
So they're slightly different. But I think that the way that they're rendering content is similar. So if you're seeing some of that, then it's worth looking at. But yeah, I would say there are people who are looking into this. And I think that as we see more traffic, it will become more relevant. So again, because it's showing up in GA4, you can see the traffic coming through there. And if it's significant traffic, then of course, like, go where your audience is. Your audience is there. You should be paying attention.
The field speeds up so much with AI, with the content production, with the AI agents, the way you do marketing. It speeds up pretty much everything. That causes, I feel, this flood of information that the user has to deal with. And that's, I think, one of the deficient goods at that time. How do you think we can grab users' attention with so much info flooding?
Value.
I
think that we're a lot of people are thinking that with SEO now, with AI, that it's different, but I've been talking about this, and I've got to talk about like AI for actual intelligence, and how you can add human elements into your AI. And the thing is that, like, SEO has always been about differentiation. When there was content mills and people were turning out manually, but churning out, really run of the mill, 17 blogs in a day, 25 blogs, 60 blogs in a week. That's when people were sort of doing all that bulk stuff or whatever. And it was really, and churning out loads and loads of content. People have always been able to do that, or have been for the last few years been able to do that. And people have been able to copy other people's content before. People have done that.
Yeah.
But really, at the end of the day, it's always come down to value, and it's always come down to differentiation. Why is somebody going to your website over this other person's website?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it has to do with what the content says. Sometimes it has to do with how the content is delivered. And as a technical SEO, I've made this point and argued this point many times. Where if I said, hey, I will give you a copy of everything that Beyonce has ever done. You can have all of that music right now, in your hands. And you'd be like, yeah, sure, I'd love that. And then I give you a big stack of 8-track tapes. And you're like, I don't know what this is or how to play it, right? Or I could give you a phone that's got all of those things on it. Or I can give you a Spotify account that has literally everything. And those two things are different. So how the content is delivered is different as well. So I think that value is super, super important. Mm-hmm. Relationships are super important. So with all of the content that's coming through, people are still going to people who are curating it well. So Elena Solis, who is somebody who is an SEO goddess, and we were really fortunate to recently have her be an instructor on our course. She is somebody who is regularly sharing really high quality content that, you can tell that she's looked at and she's vouching for, whether it's content that's assisted with AI or not. The quality of the content and the value that people get from it is super important. Mm-hmm. And I know that as a content creator myself, I use AI to accelerate the production of good quality content. So, I am able to transcribe I can speak into my phone, I can speak into my laptop, and it will transcribe all of the things. And I can have another piece of AI tidy it up with the my grammar and all of that sort of stuff. I can have another piece of AI help me, make it into a deck or make it into some visuals. All of those sorts of things. And all of that is to add value.
Yes.
If the goal is to just churn out some junk, that's,
no, you can't do it this way. Yeah, I'm a content creator as well, and it speeds up my work tremendously. Even just for data analysis alone, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But so one thing doesn't change in SEO is value, right?
Yeah.
That's at least one thing that stays the same, and it's worth to invest in it. Absolutely. So can you give us just one last question? Any trends in generative search that you see? What can we expect in 2025?
I think that we should probably see some of the model training sets improve, and the gaps between them improve, which means that it'll be easier to rank in ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. I think the last time I checked, I think it was Claude. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was Claude. I said, Claude, what's your training set up to? And they said, I'm up to April 2024, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And that means that we're going to be able to see more real-time stuff. Now, I've tested Bing Copilot on how up to date they are, and I think I tested it on Zendaya. So Zendaya was I can't remember. I don't think it was this Oscars. It might have been the last Oscars, and there were people reporting that she was at the Oscars and she wasn't. And so I said to Bing Copilot, I said, what did Zendaya wear to the Oscars? Mm-hmm. And Bing Copilot said she didn't wear anything to the Oscars because she was in London with her boyfriend or whatever. And I was like, aha, well done.
Yeah.
I did not fall for the thing. So I think that if you have stuff that's, if at the moment, some of the gaps between the training sets are smaller, but I think that as the tools become more robust, and as there's more investment and as there's more depth, then we'll be able to see the gaps be shorter, which means that that the rankings will change more quickly. And at the moment we're, it's like when you have a core update and you have to wait for the update or for the next update for things to change similarly. I think that you'll be able to see those gaps. So if you Google yourself or check yourself on ChatGPT, you don't see yourself, then if their training sets get closer, then you should only have to wait a couple of weeks, couple of months before you start seeing yourself there.
Also, thank you so much, Crystal. It was great to have you. And if you want more, please follow Crystal on her LinkedIn profile. Check our page as well for I Hate SEO by Linkhouse. And hopefully we will see you at the next podcast. Thank you so much.